Hi Simon, thanks so much for having me on the Great American Amateur Kitchen. I'd like to tell you and your viewers a little story, and along the way we're going to make a vegetable casserole, something that's become a real family favorite in our household. Here's how it all started. In late 2003 I entered a local cooking contest. I had just retired and I was looking forward to honing my growing interest in all things food. I pulled together a recipe for a vegetable casserole. And lo and behold, I won first prize. In just a bit, we'll delve into that recipe and show you how it's put together. After retiring, I began to spend more time learning about food. Along the way, Simon, I became fascinated by something called umami. Umami is considered the fifth taste, in addition to the traditional four, which are sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. It's often described as savory, or sometimes simply delicious. Umami was discovered by Dr. Kaikuni Ikeda of Tokyo Imperial University just a little over 100 years ago. But it wasn't until the 1980s that studies proved that umami actually constituted a legitimate fifth basic taste. Today, many of the world's leading chefs are finding creative ways to bring out the savory taste of a dish by cooking with umami. Some everyday ingredients that are rich in umami are soy sauce, Parmesan cheese, and ketchup. With a little experimenting, I learned that by adding ingredients high in umami characteristics like mushrooms, soy sauce, anchovy paste, and Parmesan cheese, I was actually enhancing the umami experience. Then I came across something called nutritional yeast. It's a natural ingredient that gave the dish yet another umami boost. By using these new ingredients combined with the caramelization of the vegetables prior to roasting, I was enhancing the flavor of the dish, making it more savory and, yes, more delicious. So I revised the recipe, I renamed it, and here it is. We start with about 3.5 pounds of butternut squash, which is cut into roughly 1-inch cubes, and 2 large red bell peppers, 2 fresh ripe tomatoes, a couple of medium-sized red onions, 3 portobello mushrooms, 6 large cloves of garlic peeled, and about 3/4 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil. 4 tablespoons of fresh flat-leaf Italian parsley, a teaspoon of fresh rosemary, a teaspoon of fresh thyme, about a tablespoon of low-sodium soy sauce, and a teaspoon of anchovy paste, 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, a half cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese, and finally a half cup of panko breadcrumbs. First thing, preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Roast the peppers. You can do it in the oven, but doing it on a grill really works nice. Put the peppers in a bowl, cover it with plastic wrap, and let them cool. Then peel and seed the peppers and cut them into roughly 1-inch chunks. While the peppers are roasting, poach the garlic cloves in about a half cup of the olive oil. Keep it at a slow simmer until golden brown. Take about 10 or 15 minutes and then set aside to cool. Once the garlic is cool, remove them from the olive oil. Save the olive oil, by the way, and then just mash them and set them aside until we're ready to use them. In separate bowls, toss the squash, the onions, the mushrooms, and the tomatoes. We're going to toss it in that olive oil that we just talked about saving. In a large cast iron or non-stick skillet, grill the squash until it starts to caramelize. Then grill the onion, the mushrooms, and finally the tomato. And Simon, let me tell you, those aromas are guaranteed to stimulate the appetite. Now that the vegetables are all caramelized, we're going to mix all of the ingredients, with the exception of the Parmesan cheese. We're going to mix it together in this bowl. We're going to add a little salt and pepper to taste. Once it's thoroughly mixed, transfer the mixture to like a 2.5 quart gratin dish or baking dish. Now sprinkle it evenly with all of that Parmesan cheese. By now the oven is preheated to its 400 degrees, so you're going to bake the vegetables until the squash is completely tender, which should be about 30 minutes. So here we have the finished product, a delicious and nutritious vegetable dish that your family and friends are sure to love. Simon, thanks again for having me on the Great American Amateur Kitchen. Bon appetit!